The Masters 8 tournament is the world's top Pokemon tournament for a reason, and our man is in trouble for a reason. So, let's talk about it. Hey everyone, it's Charles. How are you today? Myself and the Weiwei just wrapped up phase number 2 of our seemingly infinite wedding mini festivities, so I will throw up a few shots and thoughts at the end of the video for those who are interested. Basically, it was a good time. But you know what was not a good time? Pokemon Journeys episode 123, If Your Name Was Ash Ketchum. Titled Semifinal 2 Dazzle, the episode showcases the first stretch of the World Coronation Series Masters 8 semifinal showdown between Alola Golden Boy Ash Ketchum and Sinnoh champion / simping magnet Cynthia. And it was not pretty. Well, some of it was pretty, if you catch my drift blim. But any hoot hoots. The plan today is to provide some important context around the biggest battle in the anime's history, to discuss the significance of Cynthia's second scariest Pokemon and how it has turned Ash Ketchum's World Coronation series topsy-turvy, and it is going to be a good old time. So kindly tip-tap, tippity-tap that like button for the YouTube algorithm, and let's bust out the juicy nuggets. While the Purple Panther may be Ash's #1 target within the framework of Pokemon Journeys, it is Cynthia who is the real final boss babe in the eyes of many fans. As it is she, not he, who has been portrayed as the anime's untouchable powerhouse champion ever since she was introduced in 2006, coming in and out of Ash's adventures to etch a name for herself across 3 separate series. And you can bet your beldums that I am all hopped up to talk about this long awaited battle as it unfolds over the coming weeks. And as a quick refresher on the team's rosters, we have Ash bringing out Pikachu and the Jackson 5, and Cynthia dropping Spiritomb, Roserade, Togekiss, Gastrodon, Milotic, and Garchomp. Cynthia's team is a no-frills adaptation of her beastly Diamond and Pearl video game team, with Togekiss brought in from Platinum to avoid having the Masters 8 double down on yet another popular Pokemon. And boy oh boy did this squad ever make Ash look like a monkey out there today, largely due to the outrageous exploits of a single Pokemon. And we will be breaking down the monkey business in just a moment, but firstly let us introduce the elephant in the tomb, who turned the early stages of Ash Ketchum's semi-final matchup into his worst nightmare. It lays curses by thinking wicked thoughts. Writings tell that this Pokemon was born out of the assembly of 58 malevolent spirits. Spiritomb encounters have long been painful experiences for players of both the Pokemon video games and the trading card game. In the video games, not only does Spiritomb have big defense and big special defense status, but it had no weaknesses whatsoever through generations 4 to 5. This was on account of the weaknesses and resistances of its dual ghost dark typing cancelling one another out, and the stat wall plus complete weakness coverage made it a proper porcupine to play around, as players were left with just a few awkward techniques with which to strike it for super effective damage. This was rectified with the introduction of the Fairy type in Generation 6, as the Dark typing's added Fairy weakness opened up more Kokabatsugun attacking options, but let's not mince words, dealing with Spiritomb in the older games was a pain in the patootie, and it made the champion battle against Cynthia in Diamond and Pearl about as awkward as getting hammied with Granny Gabriella over lunch at the local pub. Similarly, Spiritomb has always had very interesting, nuanced cards printed to its name in the trading card game, and once more made a splash in tournament tier decks throughout 2020 and 2021. But the Spiritomb card that presented the most massive headache of all to TCG players had to be the Spiritomb from 2009's Arceus expansion set. That Spiritomb's Pokebody makes it so that as long as Spiritomb is your active Pokemon, each player can't play any trainer cards from his or her hand. If you're not familiar with the TCG, trainer cards essentially comprise the engine that keeps your deck ticking and getting locked out of them, such that they uselessly clump and pile up in your hand while the Spiritomb player sets up using an alternative engine is more frustrating than trying to float a boat built out of kitchen towels. The point is, Spiritomb has a reputation for making opponents want to pull their hair out. And it did exactly that once again in Pokemon Journeys episode 123. Of course, Ashy Boy has had frustrating run-ins with Spiritombs in the past, from dealing with the run-amok Spiritomb in the Keystone Pops to the Spiritomb who just about made him do in the Vermilion Kid in the Spectral Express. But welcome to the most nightmarish start to a semi-finals match that you could ask for. Well, almost. The match opens with Ash's Dragonite facing down Cynthia's Spiritomb. And what can I say, Dragonite looked about as tough as a wet noodle out there, and it took little more than a bit of tight defense and a Sucker Punch plus Hypnosis plus Dream Eater combo to put it out for the count. And before Ash's Gengar has a chance to bite back, Cynthia switches into Roserade. To Ash's credit, he actually played Gengar very well from start to finish, using Will-O-Wisp to inflict the burn status condition on Roserade, forcing Cynthia to switch back into Spiritomb, and having Gengar crack out Dazzling Gleam to strike Spiritomb for weakness. Except that Cynthia's Spiritomb simultaneously connects with Sucker Punch and survives, likely on account of its high special defense, whereas our boy Gengar does his best to get up, but falls to the ground. And before we know it, Pikachu is getting slapped around by Togekiss, and in the following instant, Cynthia cycles into Gastrodon. What a flurry of moves, leaving Ash and the crowd in a state of confusion, but as you would expect from Ash's ace of aces, good work is done. Pikachu lights the lamp on Gastrodon with a counterplay that may have been pulled out of the XY playbook, then goes hard on Spiritomb with a fan favorite move that we have not seen in years, none other than Counter Shield. We first saw Ash's Buizel use the maneuver to counter a pesky Gengar's Hypnosis back in the Diamond and Pearl saga, and it was a real treat to see the move back in action. Not to mention that the counterattack opens up a window of opportunity through which Pikachu dips in, whips out the steel chair, and proceeds to beat Spiritomb back to Barbados. Except that just before Spiritomb falls, Cynthia slaps down her Uno reverse card, aka Destiny Bond, to take Pikachu down with it. And that is where we sit at the end of the first stretch of the Ash vs Cynthia 3-parter. On the whole, the pace of the battle was every bit as slow as the other Masters 8 matches that preceded it, but whether that is a budget boo-boo or simply a stylistic choice to better mirror the games, in my opinion, it was one of the better Masters 8 segments thus far. Spiritomb was a menace, I loved the references to past series, and Ash's somewhat rough start to his first 6v6 in years could have been a whole lot worse. That said, he has not exactly been dealt the best opening hand, and I'm curious how the next confrontations will play out. But it does look like we have been catapulted into a groovy battle arc that, fingers crossed, should not disappoint the fans. And although we wouldn't find out whether Ash will be singing Cynthia's swan song or bawling like a baby Bidoof until episode 125, if he actually does manage to squeak through this into a 3 or 4-part match versus Leon, then this could potentially go down as one of the greatest tournament finishers in the history of the anime. But regardless of how it all shakes down, after a summer troubled by broadcasting breaks, an invasion of low-budget clip shows, and controversial episodes that made monkeys out of the Kalos crew, the Pokemon Journey's climax has finally truly kicked into high gear, and there's no better time than now to keep it locked to the Pokemon anime. And no better time than now to subscribe to this channel if you have not already. But with that said, what do you expect to see from the remainder of the Ash vs Cynthia clash? And do you prefer your Spiritombs in pink or blue? P.S. As promised, here are a few shots from Phase 2 of our wedding celebrations. Celebrations that have dragged on since February earlier this year and probably will not be completed until summer 2023 because having life and family spread across multiple countries, the Corsola measles mania necessitating multi-week quarantines, and not being able to find tuxedo pants in Love Disc size have made the situation a little bit complicated. Any hoot hoots. In Japan, we had a small celebration in Kyoto where we walked the streets in the middle of cherry blossom season, and as you can see here in Taiwan where I am chilling out at the present, we dressed up in traditional wedding attire to surprise Weiwei's dad, who isn't able to get out much. He was as happy as a hoppip. We had a great dinner with the fam, and next up is a small ceremony at my parents' igloo in Canada. Well, there's a little bit of a personal life update for you, and with that said, thanks so much for tuning in, and have yourself a dandy.